Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Andrea Bernal from NTN 24, His Excellency Santiago Peña of the Republic of Paraguay, and the Honorable Bill Cassidy from the state of Louisiana.
Well, good afternoon to everyone. A pleasure and honor to be today in this first day of Concordia Summit. I'm Andrea Bernal from NTN 24. We're very proud to be the media partner also as well. Senator Cassidy, President Peña, welcome to New York. As a hemisphere, we have lacked of a mechanism for regional integration. Every new administration here or there, any new ideology in the region, every coming back for the right or for the left has left us behind in an apparent lack of interest really to integrate the whole hemisphere. With this idea, Senator Cassidy, with other of his colleagues in Congress, presented this year in a bipartisan way, the Americas Act. I've heard, Senator Cassidy, the Americas Act is the solution to grow our economy and bring stability to the hemisphere, and that it will also help Latin America combat China's influence in the region. With this said, Senator, I will start asking you, why do you think we need such an ambitious bill?
I was in a discussion this morning, and the former president of Costa Rica listed some of the issues that were taking place right now in Latin America. And she said there's been economic slowdown. And there's the influence of transnational criminal organizations. There's a weakening of democratic institutions, and several more she put in there. I would argue that those are related. That if you start off with an economy which is weak, and people don't see a future for themselves, for their family, for their country, then they may decide to migrate to another country. But when they do that, they also are more susceptible to those who would say, I'm a strong man, I will take care of your issues, give me all the power. And then democracy is weakened. We need a plan that is for the mutual benefit of the United States and other countries in the Western Hemisphere, that are for our mutual economic benefit, understanding that that will be for the benefit of the individual, for freedom, and then ultimately for that freedom's higher regard for democracy. I think the time is ripe. People recognize that as an issue. I think they recognize it in Latin America. I think they recognize it in the US.
President Peña, Paraguay is one of the countries in the region that does not have a trade agreement with the United States, and happens also with countries of Mercosur as well, and Ecuador. How do you see the opportunity of the Americas Act for your country and also for South America?
I think it's a great opportunity for all the countries, and I think that Paraguay probably is the key to understanding the potential for the region. I think that after all this swing from the right to the left to the right, looking at a country that has remained at the center, under notice, without a lot of attention, but Paraguay, I think, is at the center of what could be a very honest and deep relation between Latin America and the US. We have maintained a long-standing relation with the US, a long-standing relation with partners that the US is also advocating in the case of Taiwan, Israel, and now supporting Ukraine. And the reason behind this is our own history. Paraguay was the key vote on the creation of the State of Israel. Paraguay has a moral obligation in supporting Ukraine because we were a country invaded by our neighbor during the Triple Alliance War. And we have maintained for over 66 years an honest relation with a country that, similar to us, believe in self-determination, the case of Taiwan. So I think these are the core principles, values that I think that we should push to engage with the US. Not looking to the right, not looking to the left, looking forward. I think this is what Paraguay has been proposing. I was mentioning that we have one problem. And the problem is that Paraguay is not a problem. So we went under notice. We had been an island surrounded by land, a country that had been isolated. But we have decided as a country, as a nation, that we want to stand fast, tall, loud, and raise our concerns in a positive way. Looking what has been positive over the last couple of years, and propose a positive agenda going forward.
Senator, let's be real. There have been a lot of tries in the region for integration, for commercial integration, political integration, very ideologized in some terms. For example, President Biden promoted with 11 other countries in the region America's Partnership for Economic Prosperity, which seeks precisely to promote greater regional economic and social prosperity in the region. However, one of the criticisms is that it lacks a concrete instrument to achieve this. How is the Americas Act different from this idea?
The Americas Act attempts to create a virtuous cycle. It begins by recognizing that a real impediment to U.S. and elsewhere investment in Latin America is endemic corruption. We attempt to address this by helping to establish what we call an e-governance system. Instead of somebody having to go to the capital city and pay a bribe to register their business, they can go online and register their business there. And the virtuous cycle continues because if Walmart decides to do business in Guatemala and they're doing work with a vendor who is not registered, well, right now, the government has been, at least at one point, went after Walmart. Here, Walmart would be able to go online and say, oh no, this vendor has actually registered their business, they are paying taxes, therefore we, Walmart, will continue to invest in Guatemala. By the way, I'm not speaking for Walmart, I'm just using this as an example. That in turn creates the next pillar. We have foreign direct investment, be increased trade. Now we have other things that would support that as well. We change existing US policy that would not allow the Development Finance Corporation to do business with an upper middle income country like Chile. And instead, we allow the US government to do that sort of investment. We also create something, for example, the Build America Union, put $70 billion in that to de-risk investments that private enterprise might be making in Latin America. So we do things, first starting off with trying to address endemic corruption, which we think encourages foreign direct investment, which increases trade, and then last pillar, a people-to-people component, in which we would have programs like, for example, having medical personnel from Latin America come to the US to provide elder care. And then they would return after a couple of years. But it'd be a source of remittances for the foreign country, of the Latin American country, for example. But it'd also be a source of addressing a real need in the United States. So again, it's this mutually beneficial relationship in which one thing leads to the other. By the way, we end this, if a country has addressed its endemic corruption, and they've gotten more foreign direct investment, and they now have more trade, and they are building themselves towards democracy, then in our legislation, there would be a pathway for them to ascend to the USMCA. And that would be the ultimate carrot. And we think that is a process that can succeed where other efforts have kind of hit one thing or other, but not hit the whole cycle.
Now, this bill has also a sense, President, that is centered on combating China's influence in the region. We just talked with Senator Cassidy about that. To what extent do you think it will weaken China's instrument and influence in Latin America? And I ask Senator Cassidy, isn't that a little bit late?
I don't think so. I think that we're still in a good position. And I wouldn't put to lower influence of China, but I would say to strengthen the position of Latin America. If we look the trade within Latin America, this is the less integrated region of the world, and there's so much that we could do. I talk to all the presidents in the region. It doesn't matter where they are in the ideological spectrum. I don't mind working with those who are in the extreme right or the extreme left. I try to have a very practical approach, saying this is just common sense, working together and joining forces together. We have been pushing the nearshoring idea, and Paraguay is one of the most successful cases. After Mexico, because of its relation with the US, Paraguay is the most open economy in Latin America because we do a lot of trade with Brazil and other countries in the region. So many years ago, I'm talking 10 years ago, before the pandemic, we approached our colleagues in Brazil and we said, look, we don't want to bring jobs from Brazil, we want to bring jobs from Asia. Shortening the time of logistics, shortening the time of delivering to market. And this created a lot of development. I mean, in the case of Paraguay, historically, the U.S. was the largest foreign direct investment. It's no longer the case. It's Brazil now. So I think that we need to understand the potential for our region. South America, only South America, we are a region of 450 million people, 400, almost half a billion. A region that is mostly young population, that is growing very rapidly. So there's so much opportunity. And I think if we are able to bring together countries in South America, then we're going to have a better chance to call the attention of the U.S. And I think that we need to do a better job in how to show to the U.S. that this is not only supporting common values like democracy and freedom, but this is also good economic business. When we think about Paraguay, Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay, these 4 countries, they produce 60% of all the protein that's produced in the world, 4 countries. And we have the waterway, and this is the waterway that mobilizes most of the protein in the world. We have Paraguay has the 3rd largest fleet of barges in the world after China and the Mississippi. In the middle of Paraguay, we are building a highway that is the shortest way between the Atlantic and the Pacific, connecting the most productive region of the world. So I think that this is something that we are not doing the right job in offering to the U.S. market, to Central America, to North America, that is not only trying to compete with China. It makes sense. I mean, we are in the region, we share the same values, we are defending the same principles, so I think it makes absolutely sense to do more. I look the history of our region over the last 30 years from the free trade area of the Americas, that this is something that was discussed in the early 2000s, to the entrance of China to the World Trade Organization. I think that we need to revisit our globalization agenda and don't be afraid, because I think that during the 2000s with the commodity boom, many of the countries in South America thought that, okay, we don't need globalization, we're doing fine. But now prices of commodity are coming down, and we need to revisit this, and it makes sense that we integrate and we bring more of the production from Asia to Latin America and North America.
Senator, President Peña just talked about freedom and democracy, and inevitably we have to talk about democracy if we're talking about integration, because the reality is that democracy in Latin America has been like a retreat in the region. But when we talk about democracy, we talk about investment, we talk about strong institutions, and we have to talk about growth. But we have Cuba with a dictatorship, we have Nicaragua with authoritarianism and dictatorship, and we have Venezuela. And in those countries in the region, they're like stopping us for getting bigger or increasing our goods. And how can this integration help from the United States, Senator, help us in this retreat in the region that is very, very harmful for Latin America?
Economic development is critical for democracy to survive. If people are starving, they're going to be susceptible to those who come to them and say that there is a better way, even if that other way is actually totally false. And so you have to have economic development. Now, trade is the way in which everybody gets richer. Now, you mentioned absolutely, it can't just be commodity-based. There has to be some value add. A commodity-based, the riches tend to go to some, but not to all. Whereas when you build out a manufacturing class, a construction class, a mining class, then you actually end up to have more prosperity for all. Kind of apropos of the people who are just here, Guyana is entering into a phase of unprecedented richness in which they are using their oil and gas reserves to not only produce something which is essential for a modern society, but will bring them the revenue they need. My understanding is that Guyana is attempting to invest in that so they don't become just a commodity base, but they also have the extra skills. Now that is the power of developing natural resources. And in our Americas Act, we again attempt to root out that corruption, to encourage that foreign direct investment, and to improve trade, both by this kind of virtuous cycle, but by intent of what we in the United States would do in terms of investment. We think that's good for democracy in Latin America, and frankly, we think it's good for the economies of all involved.
President, in that line, democracy has been a retreat in our country, and we're very worried about not only the countries that I mentioned, but other countries in the Americas. How do you believe a commercial integration can help democracy? Because for commerce to work, also you need democracy in some of the countries.
Probably Paraguay knows better than any other country in Latin America or in South America. We had the longest dictatorship in South America, 35 years, and we have lived over the last 35 years on democracy. And I would say that we are probably among the countries that are experiencing the most vivid and open democracy. And just one example, because democracy is not perfect, but it's by far the best political system. I was on Saturday, we were celebrating spring, the beginning of the spring in Paraguay, and we also celebrate the youth. So we're hosting a big concert in one of the main streets of Asunción, our capital. So there were like 40,000 kids there. And I went up on the stage saying, okay, I want to congratulate everybody. And there was a group that was complaining that I was there, and that's perfect. I mean, I think this is the beauty of democracy, that everybody can be able to speak themselves. But I am concerned what we are seeing in the region. I'm concerned the retreat on democratic values in Nicaragua for many years now. We were hoping that the elections in Venezuela will be an opportunity, and we are very, very sad of how it has been evolving, and we are raising our voice. It doesn't matter how mad Maduro is with us. We don't care. We care on democracy, and we're going to continue to do that. We have a moral obligation. Again, Paraguay today, after decades of being shy, on being isolated, we have decided that we're going to stand for the things that we believe, on the things that we are working very, very hard, and democracy is one of them. So we will continue to advocate everywhere. This is something that we defend, and the results that we can see, I mean, if you see how Paraguay has reduced poverty, improved social indicators, economic growth, freedom and liberty, this is because democracy. It has been something that we don't take for granted. We work for it, and we want to preserve it.
In today's political environment, Senator, where bipartisan agreements are very rare, you see a shared vision to support this bill?
Yes, right now I have a Democratic senator, a colleague, Michael Bennett, and then we also have Republican and Democrats on the House side who are supporting this legislation. And why? Because the United States there are issues in the Western Hemisphere that we recognize that unless you address 3 or 4 issues simultaneously, you will not successfully address any one of the issues by itself. Now, economic growth covers a multitude of sins. I'm just kind of making a little bit of a play on words there. But when people feel brighter about their future, they're less likely to have irregular migration to the United States. They're less likely to participate in criminal activity. They're more likely to support democracy. Their children will have that better future, and they become better citizens. Now, the Americas Act is about setting up that virtuous cycle, again, once more, where we attempt to address endemic corruption, to increase foreign direct investment, therefore trade, and then we have a people-to-people component. If we can accomplish that, then the democracies will be stronger. They will give a positive example so that those in Venezuela or those in another country will not be tempted to go after a strong man when things go wrong. They'll say, no, let me look at my neighboring country. Things are going better there. I want to be like them. What a wonderful statistic. That in the 35 years of dictatorship, you told me there was a 60% poverty rate. Yeah. And in the 35% of democracy, that has been reduced to 20%. That is an example worth following. Don't you think there's many Venezuelans that would like to follow that example now? The Americas Act is about creating examples like that.
And, sure, go ahead. And before I end, President, I was talking as well with Senator Cassidy about how United States has given a little bit of the back to the region because of seeing other important things around the globe. And some of them says that, well, for the United States, Latin America is like the backyard for many decades. Do you see it like that? This is an opportunity. And what has not the United States seen in our region, in Latin America? And we can close with that.
I don't want to blame on the U.S. I want to blame in ourselves. I had the privilege of studying here in the U.S., work here in the U.S., and as a civil servant in my own country, working with U.S. agencies for many, many years. And we need to do a better job in how to propose an agenda that is beneficial for both countries. I definitely think that there is so much that we can share, and we have to understand that the U.S. is such a large country, is so complicated with this federal system, that for countries, in the case of Paraguay, which is a unitist government, everything is much simpler. So, but we need to engage in a positive agenda. Of course, we need to understand what are the priorities for the U.S. Of course, fight against corruption is fundamental. This is also true for our countries. Maybe we don't convey the message in a way that resonates probably among all the agencies, all the institutions. In my case, in the case of Paraguay, I had made a priority engaging with Capitol Hill. Because our relation was always State Department, Treasury Department, anti-narcotics agencies, and it was never with Congress. So you will not find many members of parliament that will know Paraguay. And I have come multiple times during my campaign, also as president. I have invited delegations to come to Paraguay, and they are discovering a country that was completely unknown for them. And I think this is the type of engagement that we need to take. We don't need to look for who to blame. We need to look ourselves and try to propose an agenda that is positive. I have no doubt that Latin America has so much to offer to the U.S. I think on all these geopolitics and turbulence around the world, we are a region of peace. We are a region that most of all the countries are based on democratic and freedom. And I think that if we are able to combine those principles, those values, with the enormous economic potential that the U.S. have and the market that can offer to us, I think the benefit could be enormous for both and for world prosperity. I mean, we are a region of peace, and what better than promote economic prosperity for a region that is also promoting peace and freedom.
President Peña, Senator Cassidy, thanks for this time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was kind of fun. Yeah.
Yes.